So the first question, we were supposed to look at 1 to 3 good examples of sustainable journalism. Now, as a group, we thought of doing 2 different aspects of sustainable journalism, that is content and education. We quite didn't manage, but we focused on content. And we think that a lot of sustainability issues revolve around content. So 2 ways in which we looked at the first question. We gave key indicators of what sustainable journalism should have. And then we have 2 live illustrations of what we feel as a group were very engaging aspects of sustainable journalism, one in Uganda and the other one in Rwanda. So as far as the elements that we thought, present good examples of sustainable journalism, number 1 is that it should be content. And remember, we are looking at it from a content perspective. It should be content that make people function civically. So content that gives people information about all the other aspects of the society within which they live in, and allows them to deal with the challenges in the society and seize the opportunities in that society. Then number 2, that quality sustainable content requires partnership and engagement with the community to help the community understand issues around them and solve the problems that they face in their community. So essentially, more engagement with the community as the people that the journalism is informing. Then number 3, collaborative journalism. And now this is collaboration, not with the community or with the audience, but collaboration in the sense of media entities. I think something that Linus alluded to, should we look at the media as an industry rather than individual media outlets? So this is how we were looking at it, that if the media can serve the interest of the society and sustainability challenges, then the media needs to find a middle ground of how they can still compete as business enterprises, but serve public interest as just one entity. Then number 4, which should be the last here, is collaboration with experts. So how can the media work with experts? I think yesterday there was a question, should experts in climate change be trained to be storytellers? And I'm thinking if they become storytellers, then we won't have experts in climate change. And if storytellers become climate change experts, then you'll be like, okay, so where are the storytellers? But now that synergy, that coming together is what we are looking at in good content production. So experts in health, nutrition, climate change, collaborating with storytellers. And I'm using the word storytellers here to mean both the emergent storytellers who don't have newsrooms and the traditional journalists, both of them with a function that seeks to serve the society. So the 2 good examples that we had, one example in Uganda, very interesting, the new Vision, it's called Vision Media Group. So Vision Media Group has this, this journalistic ecosystem that they've created called The Harvest. Now, The Harvest was born out of coverage of agricultural issues. And what they did is that they found a way of creating an ecosystem that brings the community, brings the people who are traditionally advertising on agricultural stuff, and then engage more in agriculture by bringing all the stakeholders and development partners in some sort of an expo that brings all of them together, and then it generates money. So what they did is that they leveraged on their journalistic mission to build an ecosystem that helps them draw resources to serve journalism. So it is journalism that helped them create the harvest money. But then harvest money is not just about journalists. It's like an expo, an ecosystem. So in a nutshell, the harvest provides some sustainability of some sort, but it does not necessarily run away from journalism, but is built around journalism with the creation of an ecosystem that generates resources, engages the community, different stakeholders, generates money out of this expo, but then plows that money back into journalism. And probably the question that we may want to ask is, when media focuses on such revenue generation activities, to what extent or what percentage goes back to the newsroom or to journalism? Because again, you can find media owners who, after making that money, it serves other interests. The second example is from Ghana, not Ghana, Rwanda. So Rwanda, there's this initiative with women, community outreach along gender sensitization, level of understanding of gender issues. So they created this, community of women who was started by speaking along gender issues, but they became sources of news and newsmakers. And how did that help, in terms of sustainability and informing the society? It was one of the most resilient ways of informing Rwandese during the COVID-19 pandemic. Where reporters could not go, they already had their networks. And then it moved from gender issues to social and economic issues and informed the content that journalists produce. So those are the two examples and the key elements that we came up with as illustrations of sustainable journalism. Then, the ideas that we have, first idea, connect with the audience. I think that has been reiterated. And then number two, be intentional and inclusive in content generation. That content should be purpose-driven. You should have a clear intention, but you should be alive to the fact that you need to include the diverse aspects and target populations in the society. Number three, we also talked about leverage technology. And here it's using technology to partner with other third parties, startups, micro-influencers to tell your stories. We also talked about creating more platforms for audience consumption. I think there was a debate about spreading your tentacles versus carving a niche, but having more platforms to target different target audience with the content in a format that speaks to them and helps them address their sustainability challenges. This was very interesting. Run away from the existing business models. Now, there's a thinking that there are things that are working, but they are not documented in literature as revenue generation sources for media houses. Kelvin should be here to explain this, but the long and short of this is that there are revenue generation activities at media and most new, or let me say, younger media outlets are employing, but they are not within the traditional revenue generation models. One that was of interest is how do you embed a journalist into a project, and that journalist functions independently with an editorial mind to only inform people of that which is of public interests. And then the pay structure or how the media house reaps from that is independent of what the journalist does. But the fact that the journalist dedicates their time to be part of the project should in itself generate some revenue to the media house. Move away from the hard news and get to there's the 5 W's and H. Don't run away from the first 4, but do more of the last W. That is why and how. So the first 4, what happened, who it happened to, where and when, stick to that, but try to move to stories that also touch on why and how. Then create an ecosystem. The illustration from Vision Media in Uganda provides a model that makes us believe that if you create an ecosystem that leverages journalism, then you can have more resources to fund journalism to deal with sustainable issues. Lastly, you can commercialize the media infrastructure. Thank you. If I missed something, I think during the question and answer, my group members will add.